Tim, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, thank you. Microphones are hot. We're waiting on Steph to give us the old thumbs up.
Or you can just nod.
Okay, we're good. All right, welcome everyone. We're here at the City Council work sessions, Monday, March 30th. March is almost gone. 2026, 4:30 p.m. Thomas J. Smith Council Chamber, City Hall, 400 Washington Street. On our work session tonight, first is a discussion about the special council meeting, April 6, 2026, at 5:30 p.m. Thomas J. Smith Council Chambers, City Hall. And it will be the public hearing consideration of the City of Burlington proposed tax levy for fiscal year July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2027. Mrs. Stuker, fire away.
Sure. So on the screen here, you can see this is the notice of the public hearing. Like you said, it's going to be next week at 5:30. Required by state law, we have to have a separate meeting where that's the only thing on the agenda. There's no action items. We will just hold the public hearing and then close the meeting. So this was published in the paper, in the Hawkeye on 3/25, March 25th, posted on all our social media sites. Basically, again, that's required so everyone can see what we are proposing. Again, our tax levy is proposed to stay the same. And if you want to go to the second sheet, I just did a quick overall. I know everyone's received the letters from the county. There's a lot of confusion. So I thought I'd just go over a couple examples if anybody had any questions. This shows that the city tax rate, that's what it is at the top, $15.93. If you had a $100,000 assessed value house, compare last year, which is FY '26, compared to the new fiscal year that we're budgeting for, '27. So that means there's a zero change in the assessment value. So on those letters, there was a 10% increase in the assessment value. That's not applicable to everybody. It's based on your property. So anyway, the rollback decreased 6.5%. So if your house was assessed at the same amount, your decrease in property taxes would be 6.5%. And you can see what that, on that $100,000 house, is $46 of decrease. And then I just did the same thing with the $300,000 assessed commercial value. Basically, it's the same decrease because the first $150,000 gets the same rollback as the residential. And since the rollback decreased, then the taxes will decrease. And then Chad wanted me to share his actual numbers. So you can see his assessed value did go up 11.95%. We had the decrease in the rollback. So overall, his increase for his city taxes only will be 5.11%, which comes out to be $93 for the year, 7.79 per month. Does anybody have any questions? I guess one thing I didn't mention on the sheet before, if you could go back there, at the bottom we say we have to say the reason for the increase, we've explained that we have cost increases on property and liability insurance, commodities, wages, and benefits. Since we don't have an increase in the tax rate, but we will be collecting more taxes. That's what that increase means. We're saying we need to collect more taxes because we're seeing these increases. So overall, the city's assessed value has gone up. So keeping our tax rate the same for fiscal year '27, we will get more taxes in. So that's why you have to put the increase, even though it's confusing because we're not raising taxes, but we will collect more next fiscal year, keeping the tax rate the same. That makes
In
sense.
spite of the rollback.
Yes, in spite of the rollback, yep.
Because of your increased evaluations.
Well, and valuations increase for a lot of reasons too. You may have properties that come off of TIF or abatement. You may have new construction or new valuation. And then you may have properties that increase in value beyond these that add to that. So there's a lot of reasons why the tax base increases.
Okay. Any questions for Stephanie again?
Yeah, I actually have one. So an increased evaluation for the city overall actually helps us, does it not? Like-
Yes.
Okay.
Stephanie, can you give a breakdown next week on the, what makes up the levy? What funds that make up the tax levy?
You mean like the county and the school
No,
and
no.
everything, or just
No,
ours?
it makes
Just
up our
us?
tax levy, like
Okay.
the general fund, the
Okay.
employee benefits fund.
So this is broken down, those are the dollar amounts broken down there. You want it by
By levy rate?
the 1593, broken it
Right.
down that way, okay. Okay, yeah, that's the other state sheet that will show how we get to that, so.
Okay.
You could just pull that slide from your full budget presentation, that would.
Yep,
probably
I'll
be-
include it with this, I
Yeah.
was just gonna go over the same information next week, since it's a public hearing, but if there's anything else you want me to cover, just let me know and we can cover it next week,
Okay.
okay?
Sounds good.
Oh, everybody good?
Yeah.
Sorry. Next up is the treasurer's report, Mrs. Croner. We're waiting. I'm just kidding. I saw you hustling. You're doing 2 jobs tonight.
And I'm gonna go over things as they come. So in the packet was February's treasurer's report. I will tell you, there's nothing out of the ordinary that I saw on here. The one thing I will tell you is because the pilot project, Saunderson Heights pilot program's been going on, they have submitted a second draw, and there's a third draw that will be submitted this week, which will bring that balance, because right now it's like $900,000 in the hole. But the draws are about 715,000 that we're gonna get, and then the rest of it's gonna be our match that we were required by the grant. So that was the big thing that I wanted to make sure everybody knew, that we are going to get money. If there's anything you guys have any questions about, I mean, overall, I think it's the same things that I've been telling you the last few months. Some things are just timing issues, and
Any questions? All right, thanks.
thanks.
Next up is the Vets Ride Transit Program, Jocelyn Gonzalez Williams, and guests, come on up.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Jocelyn.
Brooke Marlin, the Des Moines County Veteran Service Officer.
So, we are here together for a couple reasons today. A, because Brooke helps veterans here, locally with everything under the sun from A to Z. However, in addition to her work with the county through Veterans Affairs, she also collaborates with my organization called the Self-Reliance Group. This organization hosts routine collaboration with a bunch of different partners in the community on a coalition called the Veterans Services and Supports Coalition.
So I'll talk a little bit about the numbers that you're seeing here. This information's pulled from the most recent VA GDX report that was published in October 2025. It's an annual report, usually comes out about middle of the year. This year it was a little later for some reason. The numbers reflect the federal dollars coming into Des Moines County to our veterans. And as you'll see, we're comparing 2021 to 2024. I started doing this report when I started this position in 2021. That's why I picked that year. The total federal expenditures increased from over 25 million to over 33 million. The veteran population in Des Moines County slightly decreased from 2,900 to 2,800. And the compensation and pension funding rose from over 10 million to over 13 million. The medical care expenditures increased from over 14 million to over 17 million. So the key trends that you're going to see here are the overall funding increased approximately $8 million. The compensation and pension funding grew by approximately $3 million. Medical care funding also increased approximately $3 million. And the veteran population saw a decrease of about 100 individuals. These are tax-free dollars that come in to veterans in our county. So I like to kind of tell people that because they don't realize they are tax-free benefits that our veterans have earned in some way, shape, or form. And that's about all I've got on the numbers part.
Yeah, I got a quick question for
Sure.
you, Brooke. Are you finding that veteran population, is it tough to track the vets? Because I know some of them just kind of,
Yeah, they use this from the census is usually
Okay.
where we gather that. So, I mean, if a person doesn't put
they
in there
don't
that they're a
participate?
veteran, then,
Okay.
I mean, so that number probably could be skewed some,
okay.
but I'm sure they pull some data from other places when they compile this report, but that's usually where we get a lot of that is from the census.
Thank you.
All right, a little bit taller, got to set it up for myself. So thank you so much, Brooke, for highlighting some of the background around money coming into Des Moines County. Now, I know that's not Burlington proper exclusive. However, we do have a lot of veterans that live in Burlington city limits that are benefiting from these entitlements. I circled medical care on there because that is kind of the central organizing idea for that coalition that I mentioned, which Brooke serves on in addition to a bunch of other local partners. So the program we are here to talk about today, the Veterans Free Fare Program, serves local veterans here in Des Moines County, and they are accessing Burlington Urban Service transportation. Now that is free of charge. That is also available to any veteran living within Burlington and West Burlington city limits. This was codified by City Council a couple years ago, back in 2024, October 7th, and it is currently running through today. So the reasoning for why we wanted to get this program into effect was because through Brooke's role with the county, they were previously funding this program, and she had local veterans coming in and telling her, hey, we have this community-based outpatient clinic in town, which is rare for our community. We don't have that everywhere, right? Funded through the VA and everything. Unfortunately, we still had local veterans with barriers to transportation that couldn't access the VA-funded physical health care service. So when we started collaborating, Brooke, knowing this, told the coalition partners, and we said, well, if the city's already got this transit service, what would it take to identify the local need and then possibly provide this as a different cost-sharing agreement? So how is this currently operating? This is driver verification of veterans' ID upon entry on the vehicles. So if you look up at your screen, this is a snapshot of our current outreach and resource flyer. So when I'm out and about, when Brooke is out and about, a couple of the other local partners that collaborate on our coalition also do some promotion of this resource. We hand these out to any local veteran, any local spouse, anybody who works with veterans to say, hey, in case you work with veterans who don't know that this already exists, please let them know. I will let Brooke jump in here, I'm putting her on the spot because we didn't discuss this, but in preparation for this presentation to you all, she was chatting with one of her commissioners on the county, and one of her commissioners told her her experience with this program.
So unfortunately, my commissioner was unable to be here today. However, she shared with me that she rode the bus for the first time ever about 2 weeks ago. And as she got on the bus, she said it was a very welcoming experience. She said she rode 3 different buses during her time, so she was on there for quite a while. She got to know an older gentleman that was on there who was also a veteran, but didn't realize that he could ride for free as well. He said, lady, you didn't put any money in, and so questioned that, and so she explained how he too could ride, and so she shared the flyer with him, and he was gonna get an ID card so that he too can do that, because I think he was paying about $9 round trip for everywhere he was going that day. So that was good to get that out there, but in talking to my commissioner, what we had kind of wondered, and I don't know if this is even an option, but if the flyer could even be posted in the buses somewhere for those already riding that don't know that it's available to see that and say, hey, you know, I can get an ID and I too can take advantage of this. Because obviously there's riders on there that don't even know that they could be riding for free. Not saying that the drivers need to educate everybody on that, because I know everybody has a busy job, and they're not gonna know who's a veteran and who's not. But if a flyer's there, you're always looking around when you're on the bus, right? Whether it's inside, outside, whatever. So might be a simple way to also put it out there for them.
Yes, so while we have this great program in effect, thanks to you all and your predecessors, unfortunately, there are still local veterans riding the local bus who are not riding it for free. Now, some people would like to do that by choice. Some people are lacking the information to be able to save a couple of dollars here and there. However, our coalition has also identified other local barriers to health equity for veterans in our community that we'll be getting at later in the presentation. So back to 2025 specific demand and usage. We broke it up into quarters. So January, March, April, June, July. Am I getting this right? You guys know quarters, right? Okay. So Q1, we had 186 rides, and this is total. So this is not back and forth, this is just one way. So 186 one-way rides for veterans from January through March. So on and so forth, indicated above. So in total, when you add all of those up, that is 1,208 rides for local veterans transported all of last calendar year. So some of the bus driver notes, these are the same things that when we were identifying the pilot program structure for you all, these are the same notes they had then. They're the same notes that they have now. The individuals were current riders already, are what we heard, in addition to, we simply never asked if they were veterans until we started the program. So if we go ahead and add up all of those quarters of rides, and then we multiply it, we went on the high side, just to give grace, assuming that every single veteran that was using this program would instead be paying a flat cash fare. That would total to $1,510 for the year, and that cost is currently 100% assumed by City Transit Service, AKA taxpayers. So, breaking down the stakeholders, there's a lot going on. We kind of hinted at it with why Brooke is here with us today. But we have our local veterans. They're receiving entitlements from the federal government. There's money coming in for all those different services, healthcare being one of them. So we have our taxpayers, our veterans, and our neighbors. All of you there in front of us, all of us here in the room. Our next circle, zooming out from that, we have our local businesses. Those are people that serve our local veterans, spouses, families. In addition, they employ our local veterans, spouses, and families. Beyond our local businesses, we have the cities of both Burlington and West Burlington, because the bus services both communities. And then finally, we have Des Moines County, which is why Brooke is here again. So up to service duplication. We do not want to be doing things double, right? That's just a waste of money. It's inefficient. So Des Moines County Veterans Affairs was previously funding in-county transportation via Burlington Urban Service bus passes for means-tested veterans. Now, the cool thing about this program going into effect means that Brooke was able to reduce some of the administrative burden on her plate, where the county was saying, hey, if we have veterans that need to get to the CBOC and they don't have transportation, you need to fill out this form, you need to ask them for these financial documents, you have to make sure that they can't pay for it, right? So in freeing up her ability to not prioritize those tasks and still ensure that our local veterans have in-county transportation, she's actually been able to redirect some of her opportunity, time, and awareness to create broader opportunities for our local veterans. We'll get at that more in a little bit later, but in addition, there's also the opportunity for a municipal match. So both Burlington and West Burlington benefit equitably from this. I'm not sure, Brooke, if there's any way to tell on that granular data level, number of veterans in Burlington versus West. That may come into account if you wanted to discuss cost sharing further. And then finally, there's community fundraising campaign. So the trick with this is, with the program serving all local veterans, we would want to maintain that. So in order to do this right, we would need to identify a specific value required to provide local transportation access for all of our local veterans. And then we would also identify line funding sources and then the follow-up strategies to ensure those awards. So our ask in front of you today, similar to back in '24 when the program was codified, is that we are asking for a permanent continuation of the Veterans Free Fare program, in addition to the ability and approval from you all to post those resource flyers that we were talking about inside the vehicles, so that any veterans that are stepping on will immediately have the physical awareness, if not any other verbal, etc., that we discussed, opportunity to ride for free. So our benefits. Obviously, there's direct benefits for our veterans, but then there's some runoff benefits for our community too. So for our veterans, there's an improved quality of life. And you're going to see this through their increased community engagement. They're avoiding isolation by interacting with drivers and other passengers frequently. And they always have a right to access any physical services within our community. What might those be? Things like our community-based outpatient clinic, which we are so lucky and grateful to have in our community, as well as employment, grocery stores, social associations, the like. In addition, veterans are also enjoying the development of pro-social attitudes. Veterans that Brooke and I engage with sincerely do value the city's investment in their access to local transportation. The group continues to receive volunteer support from local veterans. Finally, veterans also enjoy increased spending power. While it doesn't seem like a lot to you and I here, a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there, when city transit is your only form of transportation, and there's a fee associated every time you step on, it does add up. And so the cost burden of transportation has decreased for the specific individuals who are accessing and utilizing this service. And our local veterans are able to maintain and or reallocate those additional funds in ways that better suit their well-being and personal goals. Now, in addition to our benefits for our local veterans, there's also runoff benefits to the community. So we have increased collaboration, Brooke and I here today, in addition to all of those other coalition collaborators locally. And this program, this resource, functions as a sustainable value add for the Purple Heart cities of Burlington and West Burlington. If anybody isn't familiar with the Purple Heart cities, that was a designation that was proclaimed by both cities back in 2023 at the behest of Francis McAllister, I believe, a local veteran who participates greatly with the group and the different programs that we offer the community. So some of those runoff benefits to the community, let's talk about some of the value that has already been added. So last year, our coalition organized this idea, basically, and we didn't have a bunch of time or a lot of extra money or even clear strategies per se, because it was our first attempt at hosting a regional event. However, the collaborators said, you know, I think amongst this group of people here, we know enough people to pull together an event, to bring together enough resources, to provide enough value to our local veterans in different ways, that we might be able to get a group together and do a good thing. So support from the City of Burlington improved local momentum and internal fiscal sustainability of the Self-Reliance Group, which afforded the private development, implementation, and investment of public goods, directly benefiting City of Burlington employees, amongst many other taxpayers. So I have City of Burlington employees bolded there, and then I also drew like an arrow over to the first responders portion of it. Excuse me. So, like I said, we didn't have a lot of time putting this event together last year. However, it was one of the organizing ideals of the coalition, understanding that a lot of our local veterans who return to civilian life often go into first responder fields of service, correct? And so we said, okay, if we're already serving our veterans, how can we wrap that support around some additional community members who may benefit, may struggle with similar issues, right? And so we set the goal of engaging and wrapping those supports around our first responders. With the lack of time, money, resources last year, we didn't hit that nail as hard on the head. So that is one of our organizing priorities heading into year 2, looking to host this event again. However, we did see a lot of support for this event from across the state. And I think that goes to show the momentum that we're talking about with local collaboration bringing runoff benefits to the larger community.
So what you're seeing here is a flyer for our coffee and conversation that we started January of 2025. Our very first coffee and conversation, we decided we were just going to have a get together. Veterans, their spouses, children can come, have coffee, donuts, socialize, whatever. Our first one actually surprised me. We had, I believe, 13 people in attendance. February that year, it was a terrible snowstorm, but we still had 7 people attend. And our largest gathering was this month of actually 33 people in attendance. I have pulled people in from Iowa City VA as well as people with the suicide prevention team there, and the homeless coordinators have also played a part in attending these occasionally. So for us, this has been one of the ways I directed some of my time versus doing those applications for bus passes. And so I'm always looking for other ways to get veterans together, just to have that social aspect. And so I believe we've had a couple of veterans even use the bus to come down to the coffee and conversation, which is located right here in downtown Burlington. So we do appreciate that. And so obviously if you could share that information out with others, it's always on the second Wednesday of the month at 9 o'clock at Wake and Bake. And yeah, did you want to say more on that?
We'll toss it back. So I have some exciting news to tell you guys about this. It's going to be later in the year. So it's going to be Friday, July 24th from 7 to 4 p.m. And it's actually going to be done at the auditorium. We haven't signed the contract yet. I know you guys are over that board, so you'll probably be looking for that soon. However, we got confirmed attendance from Todd Jacobus. Does anybody up there know who that is? Could you inform the crowd for us, please?
Well, he was a colonel at the major at the time when I was in, so how high is he now? Is he retired?
I'm not sure. He may be, I don't think he's retired, but he is the commandant of the Iowa Veterans Home. And so he attends a lot of trainings and such that I attend, so it's very good that he'll be able to join us. He did come and speak at one of the F&M Bank Lunch and Learns probably about a year ago. And So he's always a wealth of information, so we love the idea that he's gonna join us. with
Well, he
that.
was big news 20 years ago, so.
He's still a big deal. He
He'll
is
tell you,
the
yeah.
leader of the Veterans Home, yes, and that's what he'll be presenting info on, which is great for our local veterans, because people have asked me about that. I'm like, I don't know, but I can find you someone who does. Turns out it's Todd. But in addition to his work with the Veterans Home, he's also the commandant of the Iowa Department of Veterans Affairs, like the top dog. So that's awesome that he's going to be here in our community providing resources, information, and network support to our local veterans. And that is all that I have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
Questions, comments, council?
Covered it very well.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I guess for me, the flyers at both the bus depot and in the buses wouldn't be that big a deal. Yeah, and I wrote down right before you brought that up about the flyers, I wrote down, why wouldn't we put a decal on the bus that vets ride free, ask us how, with a QR code or something?
Yeah,
So
so
let us work on that. We'll have to, are we to the point where we're gonna have to decide if we're continuing the program? Is that the where we're at right now, Mr. Bird?
So the last time you approved it, so you had the pilot or the trial period, and then we asked you to consider approving it permanently. In my mind, it's approved until
what I
you
thought.
repeal it.
Okay,
Right,
that's what I
until
thought.
you would decide you don't want to do it anymore. So,
So
no action to continue, it'll just continue until you say otherwise.
Until we decide to pull it.
for ridership numbers, Nick or Chad, like, so when we do our ridership numbers, that would help regardless of whether the money was collected or not? Is that
Well, we don't make it on fares.
right? So, but that would base your
It adds to the
ridership
DOT
numbers?
count, right.
Okay,
Mhm.
and we benefit from that, correct, or?
Sure,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I would think the other thing is when the new clinic opens up, that ridership would definitely increase because they'll have expanded services out there, so.
Does anybody have a timeline on that? You guys, you might know.
Last I heard, late summer, early fall, it should be open.
This year?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Well, I'm sitting with two veterans. I'm not sure, Tim, did you serve? Yeah, three veterans on this council, so,
thank you for your service.
yeah, I think you're in pretty good company right here, so. Kay, did you serve?
No, but my husband and my son did.
And I have all kinds of family that did, so, you know, you could call us supportive of that. So we'll work together. We'll try to come up with some solutions for you know, getting people in the know. If you create flyers, definitely share them with Mr. Bird. We can kind of share them on some of our city pages, that kind of thing too.
And those of
I'll
us
share
that
it
are active on
personally as
social
well.
media, you know, will share if you, just make sure that I'm aware of it so I don't miss
Yeah.
it.
I think if you send it to council, yeah, I think you'll find we're willing to share.
And I'm gonna be honest, I was not aware of this program, so somehow it,
Started before you got on board.
yeah, I mean, in that 2 years I had off, I missed it, so, I was not aware, and I probably would have told a few people had I known, so, thank you for promoting it and letting me, you know, giving us awareness, so, appreciate that. And it's nice to put a face with the name. I've seen your name around, I just didn't know who you were, so, and everybody knows Brooke.
I get that a lot. Thank
Yeah, I
you
know
all
I'm
for
friends
your
with two of you on social media. I'm not sure about Jocelyn, but I'll get her eventually.
time. Add me.
Andy, thank you a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your efforts. Number 3 is board and commission reports. Tim, did you have anything?
Not today, sir.
Okay, Annie?
Yeah, met with the downtown partners, and we're focused on kind of increasing people coming downtown and businesses being open during when the cruise ships come in on the Mississippi. So kind of working on that and finding solutions to some of those things. And then we talked a little bit about in the Renewable Energy Commission, we're going to talk a little bit about the solar panels. That's kind of what we've been focusing on for the animal shelter. So we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Sounds good. All right.
That's all I got.
I had, let's see, I had the Burlington Bees, we discussed. Right now, they're in the SEC season. They have the upcoming bee season, which is the Wood and Bat League. And they are looking at their other events. We also discussed, they got a hold of CVB. They're going to geocache the area when they have a visiting team in, so they can better gauge the impact that they have on the community. The last guess that they got from the state was around $5 million annually per year. So it does seem to make a difference, but we'll get some even better data and numbers on that. So I'm glad that they're taking those steps. And they are going to work with Mr. Bird on some other things, a future contract, as well as we're gonna clean up that, I pledged to them that I would help them clean up the capital improvements program with what's something the city would take care of and what the city probably wouldn't take care of. And because they didn't really have any experience when they gave that to us, and so there's some stuff on there that we wouldn't probably entertain doing. So I've got to get that on my agenda. A Copco I missed, was there anything, Mr. Bird, of real relevance?
No, it was basically an update and report, and then we started looking at open enrollment dates for May.
Okay. And then GGB, working on, which is Grow Greater Burlington, is working on a new industrial park out in West Burlington. We discussed that in length. Also, they're working on some certified sites. And the certified sites are sites that have been certified by the state and developers, and they're kind of codified already as far as ready to go for someone coming in. And one of the areas they're looking at there would be west and south of the airport. So there's a lot going on there. And of course, we also talked about the 61 corridor project and some of the discussions coming up on that. And that's what I had for boards and commissions. Kay?
The Convention and Tourism Group has worked on funding for a variety of activities that bring tourists to town. And for the past few years, they focused on heads in beds, so to speak. And there's an interest in the current board to think about developing some programs that might have longer range goals than just immediate heads in beds, and in developing programs or activities that might entice people to come here and decide that this might be a great place to live, work, and play.
All right.
And retire.
Right.
We had the BRE board meeting. They discussed the results of Snowball and some things they might be looking at in the future to make it a better event, even better than it is. They've got a full calendar. March was really busy already. They did the spring fling and the orchestra, and all the kids have been there. So they've had something going on pretty much every night. The thing that they were really excited about is they have the Nutcracker in the winter, and I think I believe they got some local sponsorship, and so some students are going to be involved, like local students, and kids from the school. So they were pretty excited that we're going to have local kids involved with the ballet, and they're going to get to participate in some way.
All right. Moving on to appointments, we have the following appointments that need to be reviewed for and voted on next week. First is the Airport Authority Board. Dwight Mulch's term will expire on 6/18/2026. He has expressed interest in serving another term. You can see his letter attached in the documents for his reappointment. It is requested the council consider reappointing Dwight to a new 4-year term expiring 6/18/2030. That letter, it came from the airport director. I didn't clarify that. City Planning Commission, Therese Sharman resigned effectively 2/9/2026, leaving a vacancy on this commission. Brandon North has expressed an interest in serving on this commission. It is requested the council review his attached application and consider appointing Brandon to a new 3-year term, which will expire 4/1/2029. And finally, the Low Rent Housing Agency, and I still hate that name, Arlene Miller, the term expired 12/18/2025. She's expressed an interest in serving another term. It's requested the council consider reappointing Arlene to a new 2-year term expiring 12/18/2027. Thank you to those 3 individuals for being willing and able to serve. If you have any questions, you can contact them via their applications or give me a call. I think I have their all 3 contact info. Moving on to proposed regular agenda for April 6, 2026, 5:45 PM. Well, and that's 5:45 PM due to the special council meeting. First is a consideration of plans of specs for the 2026 Sunnyside Stormwater and Sewer Improvements Project. I'm skipping words tonight, sorry about that. Nick?
So up on the screen, you see a map or a line map of the storm sewer project that we intend to do here. It's a fiscal year 27 budgeted project. We want to do this storm work in advance of the fiscal year 28 Sunnyside repaving project. So what we have is some additional storm sewer network that will add to an area that is pretty light on storm sewer. So you can see here's Vaught. For reference, Aspen Grove is in the bottom right. There's water that runs a pretty good distance downhill from just west of there down to, there is an intake down just by Sunnyside Elementary. And so the added infrastructure on there, the blue lines, will add some new storm water intakes, not just off Sunnyside, but also in that neighborhood there, and then discharge into kind of a wooded area in Aspen Grove. And then you also see some intake work off of Sunnyside near Gulf Lane. So it's estimated at a $390,000 project. I think we budgeted $750,000, so don't see any issues there. I don't know if we knew exactly how much work it would be entailed to get the infrastructure in. So we will, upon approval, would put this out to bid and then receive bids back early May. And so by the time you get this project approved through council, we wouldn't see any invoices or pay apps come in until after the first of the fiscal year. So
that basically runs right along the Aspen Grove fence, doesn't it?
yeah, there's some right-of-way. This isn't with the parcels on, so there's some right-of-way that goes down there and then you have right-of-way of Grube Street. So I don't know, at one point, they must have platted it for Grube Street to go all the way up to Sunnyside. So that's what we're using for the location of the storm pipe.
Okay, council, you have any thoughts, questions, concerns? Thank you, Nick. Next is consideration of a proposal to enter into a essential purpose loan agreement. Mr. Byrd?
That is me. Thank you. We will have 2 public hearings enter into loan agreements. The first one is the essential corporate purpose or essential loan agreement. It's going to be a larger number. There's quite a few things going on in there. We have the flood protection. These are the flood wall phases that we've been talking about and have been doing work for the past 7 or 8 years. And now we're working on the last phase of that agreement with the state of Iowa. I think that's going to be about a 10-year agreement by the time we're all done with construction and that. And some of that is abated, of course, with the state's local option sales tax increment. That was part of our agreement. We also have acquiring and equipping an ambulance. That's about $432,000. We have a forestry bucket truck. That's about $240,000. We have some Summer Street in there, and we'll propose some of the fire station in there, I think, too. So, and then we have a second hearing, and that's on a Recplex field lighting loan agreement amount, and that's general corporate purpose. So that's why you see them separately and differently. And that's not to exceed $400,000, but we have that project slated in the CIP at $350,000. But our bond counsel and financial advisor always have public hearings for a higher than or not to exceed amount. That also can help us cover bond expenses and legal fees and things like that too in there, so. I think that's it on those, but there'll be 2 separate hearings, one on essential and one on general. Any questions on that?
They'll all be wrapped under one, or?
It'll all be wrapped under one. Well, you'll see the Recplex one will be a separate loan agreement. Everything else will be in the GO bond. Even though we may abate some of those debt services with different things, it's still into one obligation and one public hearing.
That's what hadn't seen that before, and I just wondered with the different ways in which they're being repaid.
Yeah, so general obligation is really the best and most efficient way to do it, because basically what you're doing is pledging the full faith and credit of the city, which will get you the best investors in your bonds and the best interest rates, and then you can abate it however we need to abate that debt based on what we have scheduled.
Gotcha.
Okay, any other questions, gang? All right, moving on, number 4, a motion for the preliminary adoption of the second reading of an ordinance rezoning property located at 1202 Patterson Street from R4 multifamily residential zoning district to M1 light industrial zoning district.
No changes from the previous reading. Again, this went to the planning commission. They voted 6-0 to recommend approval. This would tie into the zoning district to the north and be a storage maintenance building in that location.
Council, has anyone reached out to you with any concerns about this? How we feel about waiving
I would-
waiving and going to third and final?
I would be good with that.
Okay, can we do that, Mr. Burke?
We can.
Number 5 is a motion for
Preliminary.
Thank you. Motion for a preliminary adoption of the second reading of an ordinance vacating and selling a portion of Court Street right-of-way located east of North Main Street, Burlington, Iowa. Mr. Tislin.
This again went to the planning commission. They voted 6-0 to recommend approval. No changes from the previous reading. Essentially vacating that spot to the north of this red box here. It had previously been vacated from the lots to the west in 1988, but this lot just didn't participate at that time, and the current owner desires to acquire that.
Okay. Any thoughts or concerns, council?
Could we also?
I would also, I was going to just ask, are we comfortable with waiving and going straight to third?
Yes.
Believe so, yes, okay. Good job. Number 6, motion for the preliminary adoption of the second reading of an ordinance amending various sections of Chapter 163 Environmental Nuisance of the City of Burlington Municipal Code. Eric.
Just some minor clarifications and updates to the nuisance code, just as far as how we actually enforce the code and operate to make it more clear for residents and for our staff. Just a number of different sections there, really clarifying for the residents and for our staff. But the ultimate goal is for residents and owners to maintain and clean up their property in a timely manner. Not a code we want to use, but making sure that it's efficient when we do.
Okay. Any thoughts or concerns, council? Do we want to waive this one or as well?
Has anyone heard
Council?
any?
Anybody?
I'd be
No,
okay with
no
it.
public comments?
No, nobody's reached out. I'd be okay with it.
Tim, you all right with it?
Yeah.
Okay, Robert? Okay, let's do that one too. We're gonna be busy. Resolution approving awarding contract for the Burlington Public Library boiler replacement project. Brittany or Nick or who's taking it on?
Right.
Brittany, we'll set it,
I
if
got a
she's
lot
coming
of
up,
moving
yeah, we'll
pieces.
let her start.
Eric's
All right,
Staff rotation.
This is an ongoing conversation about the boiler that reached its end of life expectancy in December of 2024. You were notified at that time, those who were on council. Included in your packet was a memo with some background information. We had gone through 3 bids, and based on staff recommendation, the library board at their meeting this month went ahead and voted on their recommendation, which mirrored the staff recommendation. So now it's coming before you for a vote on who the bid should be awarded to, seeing as this will be used, city funds will be used to pay for this boiler replacement.
Okay. Quick, so if it's approved, to be able to get it done before this winter, obviously, hopefully, yes.
This spring, before the end of this
spring,
fiscal
okay.
year. Yeah.
Oh, fiscal year, okay, thank you, sorry I missed that. Council, you have any thoughts or concerns?
No, it's nice to go local.
Yep, appreciate that.
Like a good bid.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, I would note, just to speak to that point about the bids coming in reasonable, I think we had it in the CIP at about 150,000, so.
Yeah,
Okay, good stuff.
All right.
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Number 8 is a resolution approving an agreement with HR Green, Inc. of Cedar Rapids, Iowa for the aeration blower replacement alternatives analysis at the wastewater treatment facility.
Hi, this agreement relates to the purchase and installation of high efficiency blowers that I have in the CIP for fiscal year '27 and fiscal year '29, so 2 parts to it. Initially, I did not feel the need for a full engineering analysis. However, as we reviewed the system, it became clear that its complexity warrants a thorough analysis to determine the best direction. This engineering agreement provides for a comprehensive alternatives analysis to evaluate replacement of the aging aeration blowers with high-efficiency units. The effort focuses on determining the appropriate size, type, and configuration of blowers to meet both current and future aeration demands while considering system characteristics and integration with the existing controls. The engineers will review the plant processes, blower room layout, aeration piping, electrical and controls, HVAC, and building structure. They'll evaluate both positive displacement and turbo blower options to recommend the solution that balances operational efficiency, capital cost, and life cycle cost. Additionally, they'll determine the installation sequence and phasing so that the project aligns with our operational needs and budget while minimizing any disruption to treatment. I will recommend the approval of this engineering agreement with HR Green so we can conduct a full alternatives analysis, ensuring a data-driven, cost-effective, and reliable solution for replacing these aging aeration blowers while supporting long-term operational efficiency and energy savings. The cost of this analysis is set at not to exceed $44,600 and would come from the sewer fund, pulling it from the consulting and professional services activity 511, which has a remaining balance right now of $77,853. Any questions on that?
Questions, concerns, council? Oh, the only thing I would say, Ken, when he said you thought it was worthwhile investing in the study, your compadre back there, Waterworks, was nodding his head yes. So that's a good endorsement. So, thank
Okay.
you.
I got one other thing
Yep.
I wanted to bring up. The approved budget for the project, which was the FY90 or FY27 and 29, that was based on completing the project in-house, and I included a 50% contingency. So totaling with the 2 fiscal years, it was $391,000. If the alternatives analysis recommends that we go outside, if we outsource some or all of the work, it will undoubtedly be more than that amount. But regardless, the long-term focus is savings.
At least you'll have options.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank
And
you, sir.
it's something that needs to be done, correct?
Number 9, resolution approving contract between Local 301 International Association of Firefighters and AFL-CIO in the city of Burlington, Iowa. Mr. Byrd.
This is our fire department, IAFF Local 301, so this is our fire department bargaining agreement. I'm distributing here a background or a council item memo on that. I had not had a chance to prepare that. We weren't sure exactly where we'd finished negotiations prior to my vacation. They ratified it sometime around the time I left, so I didn't get the background done and in your packet, but I will make sure that it's in the packet. The contract and the resolution are in the packet, and they will be on Monday. I'll make sure this document's in there for Monday as well. I think I sent it to the council earlier today. So just a couple of highlights. So this amends on successful negotiation of a new contract. This extends the bargaining agreement from July 1, 2026 through June 30, 2029. It's a 3-year agreement. It ties very closely to some of the city's strategic planning for recruitment and retention. Those were some of the elements that we paid attention to. Our current agreement, fiscal 21 through fiscal 26, so a 5-year agreement, will be phased out as this one phase in. Some of the key changes you can see there under the description section. It's a structured multi-year agreement. In year 1, it's a 3% increase for firefighters. In year 2, or fiscal 28, it's a 4% increase for firefighters. And in fiscal 29 or year 3, it's a 4% increase. There are some adjustments to certification pay, namely the paramedic certification pay. Again, adhering to one of the key elements of how we manage and run our department, providing that we are both firefighter and paramedic focused. And so we want to incentivize that paramedic certification, and so there are some adjustments there. There are some additional stipends for EMT, AEMT, hazmat, CPR instructor, and fire investigators. Those are remunerated in the agreement. If you have questions or want to elaborate on that, I'd be happy to walk through that. There are some training and incentive programs, some that were adjusted, some that will be discussed and looked at, implemented in July 1, 27 or fiscal 27, but that are not in there for the first year of the agreement. I don't know that I have anything else really to add, so maybe ask Chief, anything else you want to touch on that's...
Without hearing any questions just yet, the only thing that I would add is under the description for training pay and incentives, what's explained is the field training paramedic. Right now, that's a policy within the department, and as you can see here, it's listed as going into an effect of July 1 of 2027. So not this July, but July of 27. However, with collaborative discussions between labor and management, the hope would be that it could possibly happen before July 1 of 2027. And again, that's just with both groups coming together, working together on providing good, clean framework and improvements to that policy. So again, just a little bit more of a background for that specific item is all I would add.
Council questions, thoughts, concerns?
What is field training paramedic?
So right now, and this is what was an exploration of a policy about a year and a half ago, it's basically through recruitment and retention efforts, what we've designed through policy is when we onboard new paramedics, field training paramedic is a current paramedic or a seasoned paramedic, one with seniority and experience. They spend 10 specific shifts with that brand new licensed paramedic to bring them on board, educate them, get them trained up, get their level of comfort risen, rather than just tossing them out there to the wolves. This is an idea, a policy, a program that gets them a little bit more comfortable before we set them out there on their own. So a field training paramedic is who oversees that 10-day period, or 10-shift period.
And I did have one more question about how many of the firefighters are paramedic certified.
That's a living number, and the reason for that is as personnel come and go, wherever they are in their career. And when we onboard people, they come on with different licenses and certifications. So one thing to note that's the most important is you are required to be a paramedic within 3 years of hire at the Burlington Fire Department. But again, it's a living number. It comes and goes. Right now, I would say, don't quote me on this, we're probably hovering around 30 to 33 paramedics on the department that are out there on the line working.
Awesome.
Of the 45 staff shift members.
It's good numbers, Chief.
Any other thoughts or concerns, council? Good job to both groups for coming together.
Yeah.
Number 10 is a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding with the Southeast Iowa Arts Collective for community arts programming and cultural tourism services and declaring a public purpose. Mr. Byrd.
So there is a background item in your packet, along with a resolution and an agreement or memorandum of understanding on this between the city and the Southeast Iowa Arts Collective, which is that consortium of nonprofit cultural agencies, not only in Southeast Iowa, I think they bleed into Illinois just a little bit as well. But this was an item that we had had discussion about through the budget process as a way to step back into the arena of providing some support to area nonprofits, especially those involved in the arts. And this proposal or this memorandum of understanding assumes up to a 3% contribution from the city's hotel motel tax revenues, which is at this juncture for fiscal '23 would be $33,000. That would go to the collective. And then the agreement or the memorandum of understanding would outline how the collective is to use those funds. And just a couple of key points on that. They are required to certify basically that those funds would be used for Burlington city limit agencies only or nonprofits only. And they would not be allowed to use those funds for any agency in the collective that would otherwise compete in the commercial space, maybe a bar, restaurant, or something like that. So there would be prohibition on that. Otherwise, it's fairly basic. They are required to report out their numbers and their information and how their funds were used on an annual basis. And again, up to that 3%. At $33,000 estimated for fiscal '27. That number is in the budget. Doesn't mean you have to spend it if you would not approve the agreement or if you would amend the agreement moving forward. So I did also provide some history there over the last couple of years as to how the city has supported nonprofits over the years and the dollar amounts.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd. Council, I proposed this. You know, when we took the nonprofits out, I never really liked the way that kind of organically grew, where we were picking winners and losers amongst the group and also assigning the values. The reason I pitched this is it's coming out of the hotel motel tax fund, so our guests are paying for it. And these groups are charged with helping us build that hotel motel tax fund. You know, Snake Alley Art Fair alone brings in 160 rooms for 3 days or more during the art fair, and that's just one group. So it cannot be used for operations. They have to give us a report. It can't be reused for their two members that are out of town. That would be the Legacy Theater in Carthage or the Fort Madison Arts. And also not for their for-profit entity that's in there, which is Nightcap. So, you know, I think if we could give this, my appeal is to you to support it. Let's give it a year. Let's see what the report comes back. And you know, when I've talked to some of the art collective members, my approach has been, look, this could be a good thing, but if we approve it, but if you abuse it or don't handle it right, you're going to lose it just as fast. So with that, any other thoughts or comments, please weigh in now.
If we went through the ones that received in the past, the Art Guild, the Capitol Theater, the Southeast Iowa Symphony Orchestra, the municipal ban. Those are all things that I felt like they were worthy causes, but you were right, we kind of were picking a winner, so having them work together kind of gives them a mission, I think, and I think they could do some good with it, and I kind of like the collaboration aspect of it, that they have to have discussions amongst themselves and figure out what's going to work.
Okay, anyone else?
I think this could spur some more creativity in the community when they work together, and they might come up with something really unique for our city.
We like visitors.
Anyone else? Any thoughts or
Yeah,
concerns?
I'm just gonna weigh in here. I'm not gonna support this. Not gonna say a lot about it, other than there is where it says in here that they need to report to us on an annual basis. We've got that same agreement with another organization since 2012, and we've had no reports from them. In particular, the way that the capital improvements funding is spent. And it also says in that agreement that any unspent funds would be returned to the city and put in an account to be held until such time that it's needed. And that was never followed through. This organization we've given well over $1 million to since 2012. I hope that we'll keep their feet to the fire on this in much better ways than we did with the other organization.
What's the other organization that you're speaking of?
Pardon me?
What's the other organization?
Burlington Bees.
Burlington Bees, okay.
Okay, anything else? We'll vote on that, we'll vote on that for,
I would like,
Oh,
I would
sure,
like
go
you to speak in the same way, I guess, about, like, don't abuse what we're given to everybody we give money to.
yeah, I
then.
think so.
I think that would be fair, because it just felt very
No,
attacking.
that's not the case at all. It's just, the reason I was concerned about it is their group has the 2 out-of-town entities, and it also has a for-profit entity in it. And if we give the nightcap money.
No,
or
absolutely
funds
not. And I don't think they would
For promotions, that means we gotta
ever
promote
do
every other
that.
bar, and I don't think they will either. But
Especially since it's outlined in the
you and I
contract.
won't always be sitting here.
Absolutely,
And
but
the
it is.
leaders of the arts collective won't always be sitting there, so if someone could go back and archive
That
the
could be
meetings
said about
there.
anything. Anything, anywhere,
I know,
everything,
I
all
would
the
agree
time.
with that.
So I do want to clarify just
Yeah.
kind of the continuity of this
But that's
one.
why I said it.
If you look at the resolution and you look at the 5th whereas, that language is in there for a very specific reason, and it's because I think it was in 2018 or 19, the state auditor came out with a directive that said any public funds provide, and I'll just kind of read because it came straight from his circular. Public funds provided to a nonprofit must be structured as a contractual agreement. That's what we've done, for services with a clearly defined public purpose, measurable public benefit, and fair consideration to taxpayers. And so that's in there for a very specific reason. It's not just fluff language. We do have an agreement that adheres to that. So over the last several years, when we gave public funds to any of those agencies even listed here, Stephanie and I, as Director of Administrative Services, brought a very specific public purpose resolution to you each year. And so while the understanding may be it kind of continues year after year, you do have to consider the public purpose every year,
Every year.
right? So this one isn't going to just ride off into the sunset. You're going to have to review this every year. Of course, we'll talk about it during budget anyway, but you're going to see something very deliberate every year.
Yeah, okay. Well, and Annie, I came up with this program
I
to
get it.
support them, so
No,
I
I
don't want you
know.
to be offended by
No,
what I said.
it just, the wording came off
Okay.
very harsh and very accusatory. before anything even happened. That's all I'm saying.
If I wasn't supportive, I wouldn't have come up with
No,
the
I
program
agree.
in begin with.
I agree. It just,
Moving on, number 11, resolution to install stop signs at the intersection of North Third Street and Columbia Street. Nick?
This is me for my new position at the time.
Hi.
There was a request for a stop sign at Third and Columbia. Let me see if I can try and figure this out over here. Nope,
There's
not,
two.
oh, that'll work. There is a two-way stop currently at the intersection. The resolution in front of you would put a stop sign for north and southbound traffic on Third Street. What you see up on the overhead screen is the sight distance, which is the warranting factor that I outlined in the council memo. There was a period of time where we had a temporary stop sign out in the middle of the intersection during construction of the new apartments, condos, whatever you would call them. And so since the change of use in that area has increased, the sight distances have seemed to pinch up some with all the parked cars. So it would be my recommendation to install stop signs for north and southbound traffic. It fits kind of the mold that we have in the downtown area. And having spoken with the Waterworks folks, they see quite a bit of traffic going through there. So I'm rambling at this point.
No,
but
that's definitely an increase with the residents there and some of the businesses there that weren't there 20 years ago, so.
And if I may, Nick, on 4th and 5th on Columbia, those folks stop and then just go. They think that you're going to stop on 4th and 5th. We don't have to add a stop sign, but if we could put a cross traffic does not stop, that's what the sign says, right? Like it, just letting people know that, the traffic, the oncoming traffic, it doesn't stop. Because I live on 5th, and every time I come down the hill, someone always darts across Columbia in front of me, and on 4th. It happens a lot, so I think I texted you one time when it happened to me. Would that be possible to add those too, or?
Yep.
It's kind of the same problem you're having there, but the stop sign does make sense there.
All right. Any other comment on that? The only other thing I would say is I love the flashing stop signs at Columbia and Maine this weekend. That works a lot better than the stop light because there's so many times that people stop and go at that light when it's green or red because they're used to everything else downtown as a stop sign. And I know that's not our call, that the DOT is kind of holding us
Well,
to
I
the
don't want
fire.
to ruin your parade, but we will be correcting that issue.
Well, now that I know how to break it, no
We didn't
problem.
approve a parade.
I saw you down there working on it today. I was so bummed out. Anyway, that's not on the agenda. So number 12, resolution approving solar agreements with Redline for solar equipment at the Recplex facility and the Des Moines County Animal Shelter Building. Discussion.
So this is another one of those council items that made me question my decision to take a vacation just before a council meeting. So you have, I'm sending around a council background item here. Again, I'll include this in the packet for Monday. I did send this to you over the weekend. Basically, what we're looking at here, we've been talking about solar for quite some time on several different city facilities, even going back a couple of years when we looked at as many as, I think, 6 different facilities or 5, including auditorium and public works facility, among others. The 2 that make the most sense at this time, well, let me back up. So one of the other things that we talked about here just recently was purchasing solar outright versus entering into a purchase agreement, power purchase agreement, which is what this proposal is. That had a myriad of legal and financial implications for the city, not the least of which is where do we get the money, but then there were bonding issues and things like that too. So that all kind of went by the wayside. And then as we kind of focused in on what facilities made the most sense, we landed on the Recplex. It has the highest yield or return. And then the animal shelter, which as part of my ongoing negotiations with the Des Moines County Humane Society to try to make that as an attractive environment or situation as possible for them to take over ownership of that building, we entered into some solar discussions there to try to reduce or minimize some of their operational costs. It's not as attractive on the animal shelter, but it still could meet their needs and get some things done there. So, so what you have in front of you would be basically two agreements. One would be an easement or a lease agreement for the land. It basically allows the provider to put the facilities on public property, namely the Recplex and the animal shelter. That's a minor thing there, although I think it will require a public hearing because we have an easement or a lease that's longer than 3 years. I'm still waiting to get some opinion back from the city attorney on that, so that's coming. The other one is then the power purchase agreement, or the PPA, and that would be as much as a 20-year agreement to enter into an agreement with the provider, Red Lion LLC, to purchase power from them. They would then buy, install, and maintain solar at otherwise no cost to the city on these two facilities. Incidentally, the Recplex proposed construction would be a shade structure in the parking lot, which could serve, a sundry benefit there for parking under a shade structure. Very similar to what you see at SCC, the exact same thing. Or even right over here in the church's parking lot, that type of thing. The other one then would be a ground mount array behind the animal shelter. So you would hardly see that one because it'd be back in their rear yard where they have the kennel runs, okay? Okay, so there's a lot of information here. Basically, we would be looking at, I'm trying to figure out what sheet makes the most sense to kind of talk through. Somewhere around $7,000 a year savings in energy bills over the life of, that doesn't sound right, does it?
No, because if it's 924, I just did the math, if it's 924,
It's
whatever.
not, yeah, it's, may reduce your Alliant energy cost by up to $49,000 a year.
And so divided two facilities, that's almost 25
Yeah,
grand a year.
and with the Recplex at almost 99% efficiency, and the animal shelter at about 56% of consumption cost or efficiencies. Yeah, and it's the 900, what was that number?
924.
924 over the 20-year life of
Yeah,
the,
that's, I was just getting
structure.
ready to ask you about that.
Yep. That would be the savings, energy cost savings over that life cycle. There would be a buyout. It can't be fair market, or it can't be a dollar buyout because that goes against IRS regulations. So it would be a fair market buyout in 20 years, but what is that in 20 years based on cost? It would be a negotiated term, but it wouldn't be very much. Then from that point, the city basically has free energy costs because we would own the equipment outright for the rest of their useful life.
And who would service it at that point?
We would have to find our own servicing and maintenance agreements after 20 years, or if we purchased. Now, the other thing is you could just walk away. And you could either just walk away and say we're done, or you could renegotiate new equipment and a new PPA, right? But that was the other thing, that when we looked at buying equipment outright, we would have to maintain it. Well, we don't have staff with those skill sets and that technology and that type of thing. So that was another, yeah, no, we're not. We did talk about it, but when that came up, we're like, yeah, we're not doing that. So I don't know, what other questions might you have? There's a lot. This is a detailed thing, and this is a big deal. But this is basically where we were about 5 years ago, just with a lot more facilities. Now we have just two, a lot less, so it might be easier to kind of see the benefit, so.
Yeah, I think when we looked at that before, because I was sitting here, we never really had an idea of what the cost savings was gonna be per year. To me, that number jumps, especially if we're not having to maintain it, and you know, I assume that by that, you know, when that life is done in the 20 years, we'll have to, you know, that'll be another council's problem to work with, but it'll be something that should be a little bit more well-honed by then, too.
And there are annual, so one thing that we talked about here with the provider is meter calibration. So the expectation is that we would calibrate the meters on an annual basis to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do and that we're getting the return that we need. And there's an adjustment there. If it's off more than 2%, he has to recalibrate and pay for that. If it's less than 2%, we want to go ahead and do that, or then that's expense on us. I don't know what that expense is, but we talked about transferring a PPA to the Humane Society. If we enter into it now and 6 months down the road, we transfer the facility, he knows what we're doing here, and he would transfer that piece to them. He's done that before. He had a few questions about that, mostly about if he transfers to another nonprofit like the Humane Society, what's their ability to enter into an agreement and continue paying him? But we worked through that, and he's comfortable with that, Red Lion LLC. So the city and the Humane Society would be named as additional insureds. We talked about the buyout a little bit, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
How'd you come to Red Line as being the company? Was there?
So we had talked to a couple of others, and we had received a couple of different bids back, you know, when we were looking at more facilities. But this time around, the other agencies or financiers that we talked to were not interested in such a small package. In other words, just 2 facilities. The most recent one we'd been having conversations with was out of the Quad Cities, and they declined just given the nature of how small this package was. This guy was in the mix last time around, and he did give us, he has quite a list of references. He works for Pella, Mount Vernon. He's done some Mediapolis work. He's done quite a bit in this, even in southeast Iowa.
Yeah,
so.
Wise County, yeah.
Right.
Yep, good.
He has a pretty good portfolio of product out there.
Okay.
I think it's exciting. I want to move it.
Bless you, Robert. Any other questions, concerns? Are we comfortable with moving this? Is the ask for us to move it forward?
The ask is to move forward. Now, I do need to, so the PPA agreement itself is a resolution to approve the agreement. The easement lease agreement probably takes a public hearing. As I mentioned, again, I need to get that from the city attorney. But those are 2 separate documents. They can move at different times and paces as long as we know things are kind of moving forward. So, yeah, so right now, questions. If you're ready, I can at least get the PPA on the next agenda, maybe a set date.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Tim, thanks for your comments on the PPA. My guess is it's a stock PPA he uses for all his agreements, and he just didn't change some addresses and that, but we'll get on him about that, so good catch.
Okay. Last one on the regular agenda, resolution approving supplemental agreement number 2 for the professional services agreement with Stanley Consultants for the Mississippi River Interceptor Relocation Phase 1 Design Services. Nick.
So in front of you is a resolution that would approve an amendment. As you may know, we approved a professional service agreement with Stanley Consultants to do beginning stages design work, but also planning for the replacement of the Mississippi Interceptor. On the screen ahead is what this supplemental agreement number 2 would really get at the heart of. Just for reference, this Interceptor project is a $15 to $20 million project where we have SRF loans. We have some of the EPA STAG grant funds that came through Miller Meeks's office. We have potential to go after CDBG as well because it's federalized, but this amounts to an amendment of $623,000 for design and construction plan development. So what you see on the screen is some of the storm and then sanitary sewer. that goes to Main Street. Currently, that line doesn't exist where it's at located. It's actually parallel to the river. This is kind of the beginning stages of that project, and it will push towards Cascade Bridge. So you will see several other amendments come over time to do this work. So I would recommend approval.
Questions, concerns, council?
So the interceptor that currently runs out over the water is that'll be moved inland?
We will abandon that line. So we'll have to flip all of the sewers that are near the bluff and have them tip back towards Main Street. And any of the current infrastructure there will have to be either removed or abandoned.
Okay.
So some of the stuff that's under dirt near the river, we'll probably just have to fill with flowable material of some sort and just abandon it.
Okay. Any other questions? Moving on to the proposed consent agenda for April 6, 2026. First, a resolution approving nuisance abatements for various properties. If you see anything there, get with Eric on it. Unless there's some questions you want to ask here. Hearing none, resolution number 2 is approving an engagement letter with Dorsey and Whitney LLP to serve as bond counsel and disclosure counsel in connection with the City of Burlington General Obligation Corporate Purchase Bond Series 2026A. Mr. Byrd or Stephanie?
Yeah, I've got that one. It's simply that. It's just an engagement letter that says that they will work with the city as our bond counsel to issue bonds, as I've previously discussed. And it just kind of outlines what they do and how they do it for the 2026 bonds. Because of the sizing on that, I'll just kind of point this out. They anticipate that all of those legal fees all in would be in the neighborhood of about $70,000. So and they typically bill for those services at the end when everything's done, and then we just kind of wrap them into bond proceeds. So
Yeah, got $70 million instead of 70,000. In the,
what page is that on?
Page 122 in the back.
in the resolution, the 5th paragraph, says the estimated aggregate fees and expenses for legal services approximately
It says
$70 million.
Someone got a little excited with the zeros there.
Well, in the 5th whereas it says 70,000, where do you see 70
It
million?
says it's 70 million.
In our-
Whereas the estimated aggregate fees, expenses for legal.
That's not on my copy.
Well, yours is fixed.
That's so strange. I'm not kidding.
His does say 70,000.
Sorry.
Well,
We'll make sure we fix that, but
Fix
I
that
got
in the back and please,
This
yes.
is the paper, right? I don't know what's going on over there,
Thank you,
but.
Tim.
Thank goodness for all your proofreading.
Yes, no kidding. All right,
Okay,
assuming,
we'll fix
assuming
that,
we get
yeah.
that fixed, we'll move
Yes.
forward.
I thought maybe I forgot how to read.
I don't know how the fees could be more than you're actually bonding for by a factor of 10, but we'll take care of that.
The third one is a resolution approving liens for unpaid and delinquent sewer, stormwater, and solid waste fees pursuant to chapters 99, 100, and 106 of the Burlington Municipal Code. Anyone want to cover that, or is it pretty well self-explanatory?
Yeah,
Oh, that's what you had to wait all for? I could have moved you up.
At the very, very end. So we have approximately between stormwater, trash and sewer, there's approximately 300 residents or businesses that do not have water service.
Okay,
So these are the people who, or the entities that do not pay their fees because Waterworks can't shut their water off. So I get a list every year from Waterworks of these accounts, and these are the people who have past due amounts. And a lot of them are repeats from previous years. It's the same, a lot of them are the same people,
okay.
so.
Can you get us a list?
This list.
It is
There's a list, I didn't see it. There it is, okay, thank you.
It's
I
the
didn't
very
see
last
that.
page.
Thank you. Fine with me.
Yeah, so that's why this comes, because the only way we collect it, I send a letter out. This will be updated before the council meeting because the letters I sent out gave until Wednesday to
Oh, so
pay
maybe
before.
some of
Maybe
those will be up
some-
there.
So yes, some of these will probably drop off. And then next Monday night, whatever isn't paid by Monday, I'll have you guys approve, just take over to the courthouse.
Any questions or concerns, council?
I just wonder if that administrative fee covers the,
That administrative
cost.
fee is for the county. No, it does not. We do not have an administrative fee, which is something I think that we should probably think about doing, because every year, like I said, some of these are repeat people over
Yeah,
and
we're doing
over.
on public-
bring that
public
forward,
nuisance.
Chad.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was gonna talk to Chad about it, but the $5 fee is the courthouse fee.
Yeah. Probably ought to be more than $5.
All right, well, it'll be more.
Correct. Correct.
Okay,
All right,
sounds good.
all right.
Why,
Thanks for
may I
asking that, Tim.
ask why they don't have water?
Because they have a well or some other water source. I mean,
But
they're on well water,
So
so,
this would be like sewer and stormwater, okay, right?
Right.
So they don't want to pay that, and their only caveat we've been able to do is shut off their water.
so these are
Right.
people that like, some of them are, so a big place that doesn't have water is people on Hunt Road. So they don't pay their stormwater runoff. Because we don't have any other way to get it from them except for through
Okay.
this mechanism.
So did some of these, like the commercial downtown, maybe the tenant pays the water and the rest of it's billed?
Yeah, there's some back and forth about who's supposed to pay and who actually pays, and some of them are, it's just, they just forget about it for the whole year. They get a bill every month, but they just don't worry about it until they get my letter.
That's frustrating.
Very.
Kind of like grade notices in school.
Correct.
Sounds like
I should buy on
entrepreneurs.
Well, some of these dollar amounts, it's like, it's
Yeah.
just as easy for them to pay it once a year and be done,
Right.
right?
Well, and Waterworks allows them to do that. They can pay and have it just come out of their balance. But like I said, most of them just forget about it once they pay it the once a year.
Okay.
And I put them all on there if they haven't paid within the year.
That's what it should be.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
Any
you
other
very much.
questions?
Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks.
And then the fourth one, which is a public hearing previously scheduled by city council. It's a consideration of the consolidated transit grant application. That'll be April 20th, 2026. Stephanie?
I too went on vacation 2 weeks ago and forgot something that needs to be added. I need to set a date for a public hearing for our budget approval on April 20th. So that will just go right after this one too, but it's pretty important. I said that.
The state will be after you.
Anything else that anybody going on vacation forgot?
We're not going on vacation again.
Okay, all right. Don't say that. All right, we'll go around and get last thoughts from the departments and then council. Nick, anything? Well, you're gonna stand in for development. Anything for them?
I have nothing to, unless Mr. Byrd has anything.
I have something for if we're on development.
Yeah.
So their monthly report came out, you probably saw it, but I just wanted to highlight a couple things, because these guys in development and building, and in inspections are just rocking it. In development, year-to-date, department permit revenue, fiscal '26 current year-to-date, $485,000 in revenue, permit revenue, compared to last year, $210,000. 657A cases, there are 7 657A cases in process. That's a lot of work, and they're doing incredible work there to follow up on those. As a commentary, it's almost sad that we even have that many 657As that we're chasing down, but that team is getting after it. On the building side, total permits for the month, fiscal '26 for the month was 55, compared to the month last year was 31, so almost double. 447 on the year compared to 350 on the year. Total nuisance cases for the month, 94, compared to the month last year, 34. Year-to-date, 1,752 nuisance cases, and 30 junk vehicles in the month, and 155 on the year. So they do have an increase in expenditures, but these numbers would otherwise show that they are doing a ton of work. Appreciate their efforts.
Yeah, I would echo that, Mr. Byrd, because I think our police department and fire department hear a lot of love from council, if that's the term you want to use for it, a lot of praise, and they damn well earn it. We probably are not as free and as just in our appreciation of public nuisance. That is a tough job, and if you talk to any one of those people in the department, sometimes they get pretty worn down. So council, if you get a chance to give them an attaboy or appreciation one-on-one with one of those in that department, please do so, because I think it means a lot. They need to know that we do value what they do, and I know we do. It's just that maybe we don't express it enough, so. Okay, let's see. And then anything else from your office? Okay, Ken, anything from Waterworks? Tim, anything from, okay, Brittany? I was on a run.
Well, if we had met last Monday, I would have said, good news, all bad library legislation failed to pass the second final date of March 20th. And we did have a little bit of a moment of relief. And then an amendment was submitted on a Senate file that has nothing to do with libraries. The Senate file 2432 is a bill that has to do with city departments of health, which I believe in the state of Iowa, there's one city that has a municipal board of health or department of health. Everyone else is a county. So with that Senate file, which is really only about 4 lines long, they attached a 2-page library amendment to it, and it includes just about everything from the library omnibus bill, plus a few new elements that we didn't see before. This Thursday at 6 p.m. at the library, we're going to have our next advocacy meeting with the Board of Trustees, and we were planning on just going over property tax reform, but now we've got a few other things to chat about. So if I have spoken with Rinker a few times about this, and he does not support it. Nevertheless, if you find yourselves interacting with any House reps, despite the fact that this is a Senate bill, it's now over in the House. So if you're talking with any House reps, you might want to ask them what the thinking is behind this and what the goal is in passing something like this. If the House does pass it, it's different enough from the original Senate file that it has to go back over to the Senate for another vote before going over to the governor's desk. But this is the last crunch time in the legislative season, and so we see things kind of shuffle through a little bit at a faster pace. So we're keeping a very close eye on this Senate file that has now been amended to be a library bill.
It's something both parties have done for years. They put a poison pill in on trying to slide it by. So.
Yep.
It's disappointing.
It is. On Monday next week, April 6th, the library will be closed to the public. This is going to be one of our staff development days. We're bringing in a speaker. And this spring staff development, we invite all area libraries to join us because this is one of our attempts at being a little bit more efficient with the dollars that we're given. We consolidate those training dollars. We bring in an outside speaker, and then we invite all Southeast area libraries to join us for a day of learning, and it will include trustees and library staff, so it should be a good time had by all. Our focus is on intellectual freedom this spring, and our keynote is Amanda Sand, who has had experience with ALA and some situations out in Western Iowa where they've seen some challenges to intellectual freedom. But we will reopen again 9 a.m. on Tuesday next week. Closed all day on Monday. Okay.
Thank you. Stephanie, anything from your department? Chief Schaefer? Chief Tubes?
No, sir.
Now, Nick, Public Works and Deputy City Manager stuff.
It's good that it starts with a handout, right?
Oh, yeah. Love it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Ooh, it's got colors.
So last Monday, we had a Cascade Bridge public input session. And so it started off with a short presentation, which mine will be significantly shorter than 3 engineers getting up and talking. But the nuts and bolts of it is that we went over really 3 different design areas of concept that we are anticipating at looking at. The first image that you see on the overhead was on a scroll plot, and so the information that was handed out to you was garnered by the red dot, green dots that we gave out to the participants of the public input session. And so what is on the screen is the potential layout, the concept drawings of the different intersection designs. Off to the left is what's currently there, and then the 2 in the middle are kind of different configurations of a T intersection and kind of just realigning that, and then the 4th on the right is a single lane roundabout. So on your packet of information that you received, you saw where people had put red dots and green dots. Now, none of this information, because it was qualitative data, is put out there, but we also received a bunch of comment cards. So we received those comment cards, and so there's no real way to quantify them and put them on bar charts, but wanted to show you this kind of as a preliminary part of our data collection. The second slide or scroll plot was of the architectural drawings. The top 8 of them are a vision of what could be done to aesthetically bring a part of the bridge or create a gateway feature into Dankwart coming from the north. So again, these are architectural drawings. I was standing at the architectural drawing table trying to explain what someone drew, and I was a little bit lost for words as I'm not the creator of the artwork. And then the bottom line is different railing designs that could be on the bridge. So the only thing that's really dealing with the actual bridge was the railing, and I can say overwhelmingly that all the green dots, for the most part, went to the retro or an adaptation of the original rail design. So the one thing that I did take, or I would take from this, is there was some difficulty understanding that these are all just conceptual designs. Even, for instance, these drawings of the roundabouts were taken quite literally on how the roundabout was designed. So I just would like to let you all know that these are conceptual drawings, and that they're just to be showing you kind of what could happen. The part moving forward is we have a online survey that is going to be developed where we will reuse or repurpose this information on our website, and we will be pushing that out here shortly. We just were reviewing some of the survey questions, so I guess I would just make a note that these comments and the survey data is important for council to see, as it gives some indication on the decision-making process moving forward. So I know we received a bunch of different comment cards, and we'll find the best way to try and give that information to you all, but we were going to wait until after the survey data was received. So with that, I don't want to lengthen the bridge conversation any more than I already do, and I would just simply answer any questions about that, if you would like.
I do have a comment.
Okay?
When we do our next meeting, we need to somehow control access to the dots that they use. You know, they all use a dot, maybe go to a star or something, because there was a guy there that I know, that I invited, and I didn't know he was coming loaded with red dots to put, I think he might have be all 11.
Oh, Lord.
And so, you know, because we've done that now on a few of them where they use a dot, you know, you're only supposed to get so many, but they didn't explain, here's your dots, use this for this section, or use this for this section. So we had people dumping dots on something they didn't.
Yeah, there were some dot shenanigans where green or red dots were trying to cover up the other colored dots. So, yeah, that's noted. We should probably say, here's your 2 stickers of some sort, and that's what you get.
Right.
Rather than it be a little bit, it was a little bit free-for-all with the dots,
It
so.
was a little bit, but it was still a very, very good meeting, as far as a lot of information was shared.
Yep, there was a lot. I think some of it that it's hard to digest and understand is what the heck has been happening for the last few years. We've talked about this bridge, and we've talked about this bridge. We're just finally at a place now where we can talk about the replacement of the bridge. So again, I think the thing to reiterate to the public is that all of this is conceptual drawings, and it is not what this is going to absolutely look like. There is still quite a bit of public input that'll happen, along with conversations here at City Council, so. Other items of note are, construction season is in full-blown session. Summer Street closed last Wednesday. Seems to be going okay. I mean, I've heard a couple complaints, but it was kind of expected with the arrow board we had telling people that it was going to be closed. Washington Street, hopefully here in the next week or so. The intersection is looking like it's a little bit more open. So that's all I'll leave you with.
Before you leave tonight, I want to talk to you after the meeting, please.
Okay.
Mr. Burt,
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
okay. Robert, anything?
Well, if he doesn't want to say it, I will. Burlington and West Burlington were recognized for collaboration, and they have redefined intergovernmental collaboration through their shared services initiative. So you want to kind of touch base on what you guys are trying to accomplish?
Nope.
Aww.
No, thanks, Robert.
I didn't want to steal your thunder.
Greg and I, through Burlington, West Burlington, were recognized at the Iowa City Managers Conference last week, which is, as soon as I got back from vacation, I took off to Iowa City for a couple of days for the conference. Great conference. Actually, we had a rock star presenter talking about all things library there. She did a great job. But that organization recognized Greg and I as Program of the Year for the state of Iowa, for Iowa CMA, just for our ongoing program sharing, collaborative, bring people together, let's talk about ideas and that type of thing, so.
We appreciate you. That's why I brought it up.
Thank you.
Good job. Tim, anything?
No, just curious if we got the problem resolved with the gentleman that liked to send the emails.
We continue to work on that. I did speak with Patrick a little bit over the weekend as well, and he's still continuing to get that information. I asked him to put it on our monthly update next week when he's here to talk in a little more details, so.
And I did swear out a formal complaint.
So he was talked to?
He was talked to
Yeah,
by a law enforcement officer.
second time I might add.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Anything?
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No, thank you.
The other, what was the other thing I had? I guess we already answered it, okay. Good job to our city manager and great job to our staff. You know, it is a matter of pride here when you sit on council, that every time we turn around, our people are leaders throughout the state.